Hello, everyone. It's me, Andrew. I'm here in lovely Ligonier, Pennsylvania. Uh, don't mind the sirens going off in the background. They go off whenever they get a call for the fire department. So it's a little bit disconcerting if you don't know what's going on, but otherwise, it's usually pretty. Except for whoever needs help, then that's not that awesome. But usually for everybody else, it's fine. So don't worry if you hear that in the background. So it's been a little bit. William checked in yesterday and did a let's chat. I have a meeting directly after this, so I can't stay on too long. But I did want to check in and say hello. I had been planning a little Halloween project, but unfortunately, I didn't get it finished for today's live, so maybe I'll do that tomorrow. If you hang out until the end, I'll tell you some little news that we have going on. So hopefully you all will enjoy that. Yeah. So if you're watching, say hello. Um, I know that since we've not been on a lot lately. Uh, we've kind of fallen off this radar, if that makes sense. It's kind of one of those things where when people say that consistency matters, they're not joking. Um, yeah, and so we've been gone for a little bit. But yeah, so we're here now. Both William and I got COVID a couple weeks ago, and so we've been resting up and recovering. Thankfully, we had fairly mild symptoms. We were quarantining a little bit extra because I had a class. Earlier this year, I won um, an educational endowment scholarship from SNAG, which is the Society of North American Goldsmiths. And I knew I wanted to be okay for that class. So we were very serious about quarantining and making sure that we were fully recovered so that I could go to my class and not worry. Thankfully, my recuperation time wasn't too bad. And yeah, so I got to go to my class, which was super exciting. Um, Even though I went, I still wore my mask and was still trying to be as careful as possible, just in case. I get sick pretty easy, so wearing the mask is actually not too bad for me, anyways. I had to do a presentation uh, before, and I think that's where a couple weeks ago, and I think that's when I got sick. But you never know, right? So as soon as I'm eligible, I'm going to get my booster for the new variant. They said even if you had gotten sick, it's always good to get the boosters. And I think that because we got the boosters earlier, it helped reduce some of the symptoms and recovery time. So it wasn't as like severe as they were when it first came out. All right, so I'm gonna see who's watching. Only a couple folks so far. I see Susan's watching from Upper Michigan. Hello, Susan. Suzanne is watching. Hi, Suzanne. It's been a while. Debbie is watching. Hey, Debbie. Um, Barbara's watching. She says it is what it is. No one knows, so don't stress about it. Yeah, I'm not too concerned about where or who I caught it from, um, because it's like you, it's not something. I mean, you can do your best to prevent it, but you can't necessarily, you know, it's hard to prevent it if you do catch it. So, and I guess that sounds weird, but like, you know, you have to roll with it. And luckily, we are healthy enough that we didn't get like hospitalized like some people. I know one of the people watching yesterday had lost their husband to COVID, and that was super sad. And yeah, uh, you know, it's killed millions of people. And so I don't want to sound flippant or kind of like laissez-faire about it or whatever, but also it doesn't really do any good to stress about something that you can't control and don't it doesn't really benefit. Like, I don't know. I made sure to tell anybody that I came in contact with that I had come down with it. And thankfully, none of them seem to have gotten it. So I don't know, you know, it could have been at the gas station when we were pumping gas or at the restaurant we went to. So you never know. Um, so yeah, thankfully, we're both better. It's a little bit stressful right now. I know William talked a little bit about this yesterday. We had been closed for a while because we were short staffed and we were both quarantining. So that's never delightful, especially as a small business owner. You don't really get sick days. So that's a little bit stressful. And I felt guilty about taking the class, but I had also won the scholarship to take the class. So I would feel equally, if not more bad, if I didn't take the class. Um, so yeah, so I got to take the class, and I think it was really good because it's something that will um, help uh, hone my skills and refine my skills, and it's something that I will carry with me for the rest of my making career. So, you know, it's one of those things where you have to weigh out the pros and cons. Susan's watching. Hey, Susan. So, if you're just tuning in, we're just having a quick little chat today because I have a meeting right after this. We're getting ready for the Great Beat Extravaganza. So we have our monthly meeting for that, planning meeting. So that's going to happen directly after this. Barbara says, yes, don't stress. And we're all going to get it at some point. So, well, you know, I did my best. I tried real hard not to get it and had been successful for 2.5 years. So um, hopefully I don't get it again. But I'm going to still be pretty safe. And so, yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where I'm a little bit more paranoid about getting sick because I get sick pretty easy. Um, After I got cancer, my immune system got kind of whacked. Um, so, yeah, I don't know. I used to never get sick, and maybe like once a year, like a normal cold once a year. And if that, even like it'd be years in between getting sick. And after I got cancer, then my immune system kind of never fully recovered. So I get sick pretty easy, so I don't want to risk it. Even though it's been a long time since I was sick or had cancer. So, anyways, before I go off the rails and people are like, what is he talking about? Is this generational trauma hour? Um, Suzanne says, I enjoyed the pieces you made. Very nice. So I'm going to show you those pieces a little bit closer. Barbara says, we all have to be safe and do what we can. Yeah. Donna says, hi, Andrew. You look and sound good. Oh, thanks. I got sick earlier than William, so I have had a couple more days to recover than he did. And like I said, we've been quarantined from each other for a while. So Um, yeah, and I've been taking it pretty easy. Normally, I have this thing where I push myself and I work really hard, and I don't mind that. I like it. It's something that I enjoy as a maker. I love my job making things, so I have no problem working long hours and spending long hours doing stuff. And I forget to sleep and eat and different things like that. And I don't mind that normally, but I definitely wanted to be careful about resting up and making sure that I could take my class. So, yeah. So I haven't been pushing myself too hard, um, which puts pressure in other places in our lives. But you know, it is what it is, and we're just gonna have to work harder and bounce back. And if you didn't hear, I have some news at the end of our little chat today. Um, but anyways, let me turn this around. Um, let's see. Susan says, I honestly don't know if I had a mild case of COVID or not. When it first came out, back in 2020, it was just coming out in Tucson, or we were in Tucson right before everything kind of shut down. And tons of people got sick in Tucson, and no, like, we know there weren't tests available then, and different things like that. So who knows who got it or what back then. And then, like, if you get a mild cold and you don't, or get congested and you just don't know and you don't take a test, you may not even know. So especially if it's super mild. But anyways, let me flip this around and you'll see the ceiling for a minute. Um, I did want to say that I worked on a Halloween project for you all. I didn't have a chance to finish it. I like to troubleshoot things before I show them, just in case it doesn't work out. Because I hate it when you like have an idea and you go and you show people, and then you don't work out the kinks, and then you kind of have to work those out live, and that's never delightful. So maybe tomorrow, if I get it finished. I don't know what William has planned for the rest of the week. I know we have a trunk show planned with Hannah Rossner and Sean Tucker of Good River Gallery. So I don't know when that is. I have to check the calendar. I think it's on Friday, but I'm not sure, so I have to check. But tomorrow is Wednesday, so we'll see. Anyways, let me flip this around and I'll show you what I've been making recently. It's been a minute since I've been on, so I apologize if I'm rusty, because, yeah, I haven't been on and I haven't seen anybody hardly for weeks. So, one of the things I did that's not jewelry related is I made some paper. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit closer. So this paper is actually made of shredded money. We won an auction a couple years ago, and one of the lots that we won was some shredded money. So I decided to make some paper out of it, and it worked okay. The money is kind of made so that it doesn't break down, which is good, I guess, because you don't want to have something like in your wallet or whatever and have it like disintegrate. Um, But the issue with that is that the setup that I have um, isn't really um, designed to break down fibers like that. So I would love one day to get a Holland beater, which is kind of a really fancy blender slash grinder. So it kind of has like a wheel that grinds the fibers down as it goes through. So it's a little bit different than a blender where things kind of have to come in contact with the blade to really get broken down. So with a Holland beater, it grinds things much finer and much quicker. And in theory, I could have broken these down by hand. Um, uh, with some of the plant fibers, that's how you have to treat them traditionally. You have to pound them with um, and kind of mash them up and grind them down by hand and hit them. And um, I definitely don't have that kind of energy. And it's also kind of messy and tedious. So I did not do that. But so, um, yeah, I made this paper, which I'm going to use as a background. And I put a couple of the bigger pieces in so that you could actually see what it was, which I think is pretty cool. But yeah, so I like to make paper as well. Debbie says, fun, Halloween is my favorite. Me too. It's one of my favorite holidays. Susan says, I just missed a bit. One of my Instagram pals let me know her kitty passed away this afternoon. So sad for her. Yeah, that's super sad. So I was super fortunate to be able to take a workshop with Everett Hoffman, who is one of the resident artists at Penland, which is in Spruce Pines. It's a really wonderful craft school in the Blue Ridge Mountains, a little bit about an hour north of Asheville. He is really well known for tab settings and doing some really cool art jewelry pieces that are covered in these really cool little settings. So he was coming to Touchstone, which is in Farmington, Pennsylvania, which is a little over an hour away from me. And I was super excited to hear this because I had wanted to take his class in Baltimore when he was at the Baltimore Jewelry School. Um, um, but unfortunately, I couldn't get down there when that happened. So, anyways, I had won an educational endowment scholarship from SNAG. So I used that to take this class and I had a lot of fun. So this is the first piece that I made. Of course, because I'm bougie and have been collecting cabochons for years and years, my first practice piece is a ruby. Most of the other people were working with like glass and stuff, but I have a stash of different stones, so I brought those to work with. I have tab set before and done this kind of setting before, but a lot of the stuff that I had done previously was self-taught or done in kind of a group class that was a lot more, there were a lot more people and stuff. So it was nice to have that dedicated time to spend kind of refining and understanding the settings better and kind of perfecting on how to use them a little bit better and more effectively. I had some issues before with some of my settings, my prong settings. So it was super helpful to kind of pick his brain about how to do those. Um, and so we had a 3-day workshop, and there were just 4 of us in the class, and there was a teacher assistant. So we got a lot of one on one time. Um, and probably half of the people in the class were beginners. So he spent a lot of time kind of going in a deep dive. And working from the basics up. And normally, I know a lot of folks who take classes who are more experienced, they don't particularly like that. They want to just go to like the more advanced stuff. But for me, I don't mind that because everybody does things differently. So it's always interesting to me to see how different people do different things, and sometimes you pick up things on ways that you can improve your order of process or your workflow, or even basic like bench tips and how things are set up and how they do things. So I don't mind that. I think it's pretty fascinating to see how different people do sometimes the same things, but in their own unique way. So, yeah, so there was like a lot of soldering demos, and I know how to solder, but it was interesting to see how he does it because he does it a little bit differently than I do. So it was pretty cool. I had a lot of fun. He's a very generous and patient teacher. Um, and if you do get a chance to take a workshop from him, I would say do it because it's cool. But yeah, so this is the first one. This is a tab setting that I made with a ruby, and it's copper. And I cut the back out, that kind of arabesque design, and that it doesn't really let the light in too much, but I think it's a fun kind of little decorative element instead of just having it be plain on the back. So yeah, so that's how those prongs are done, or tabs. Um, and it was nice to see the like his finishing techniques for certain things, because they he had some cool little life hacks that I kind of wasn't aware of. And I am like, there are these sanding discs from um, Moore Company, I believe, and they're flexible sanding discs. And Tanya Crane was the first person to show me those, and then Everett showed us those, and I was like, "Where were these before?" Because for a lot of this stuff, you just have to sand and sand and sand and file and sand to remove buildup of oxides, and so those little discs save so much time. And I was like, huh. I mean, it's good to get the experience and learn kind of the old school way of doing everything by hand. But when you're kind of doing this in a professional capacity, or you're doing it a lot, sanding can be kind of a pain. And it's one of those things that um, if I get into the groove of it and kind of find that meditative space, then I don't necessarily mind it. But if I can't get into that mental kind of space, then it's become super tedious. So those sanding discs are really wonderful. Anyway, so this is my second piece. It's a tab setting, but it's a little bit different. Where this is tabbed from the outside, this is tabbed from the inside. So you end up having to do this kind of configuration where you cut the pieces out from the inside. And I don't know if you can see that or not very well. And I gave it a brushed kind of metal look, which I think is pretty fun. I thought that was a nice finish. Sometimes I like a mirror finish, but oftentimes I feel like if you do a mirror finish on stuff, it quickly becomes not mirror finish when people handle it. So I kind of like a satin finish on a lot of my pieces, or a brushed finish or antiqued, so that when it does become discolored or whatever, it doesn't look like a mistake. It looks more purposeful. So I did that. This is an emerald, and I did an inner tab setting using that. And then my next project I did was this one, which combines the outside tab setting with the inside tab setting. So, and then I soldered a bail on. So this is a carved mother of pearl um, a little owl that I've had. I got a bunch of them in Tucson one year because I thought they were beads, and then they didn't have any holes. So I have a bunch of these floating around. So I was like, wow, I should just use them. I brought all of my different stones, and at one point I was gonna kind of spread them out, but then I didn't want to show off, so I just kind of quietly tucked everything away because I know that it's sometimes annoying when you see somebody and they're like, and then look at this, and then look at this, and then look at this, and then look at this. So I kind of just pulled out my own stuff. And then when I'm in classes, I'm generally pretty quiet, especially for the first part, especially if I don't know anybody. It takes me a while to kind of warm up to people. And I like to work, so I kind of dial in into the working and kind of understanding. And then after a couple days, then I kind of loosen up once I get more comfortable with the different processes. So like if I'm ever in a class with somebody and I'm kind of weird, uh, that's normal. Um, and it's funny because somebody was like, so I talked to somebody who I had taken a class from a couple years ago, and they said, you know, when you first came in, I thought you didn't like me. And I says, why did you think that? And they were like, well, you're really quiet and kind of just standing there and like taking notes, and you weren't joking around or anything. And then after a while, you kind of warmed up. So that's pretty normal for me. Um, I can be a little bit awkward, especially since we haven't been really seeing anybody for a while. We're talking, you know, you get rusty. At least I do. Some people, they just kind of jump into it and they have that kind of personality, but I'm more reserved until I warm up. So, anyway, so this was a combination of this kind of tab setting and this kind of tab setting. Um, I tried to texture this to make it look kind of like the moon. Um, Teresa says, "Do you sell the owls?" I probably won't. I'll probably keep them for my own particular designs, but I may, if I have time, I may make them into some things. I don't really sell these because class samples. I always feel weird about that because I'm learning, and I kind of feel like I want to get more confident, I guess. I don't know. I just always feel weird about selling like class work. But who knows? I have a little box of stuff that I've made in all the classes I've taken, and one day I'll probably de-stash them or get rid of them. But it's kind of weird when you get I don't know, when you sell your other work, and like there's things with this, like my solder kind of there, the honeycomb that we used at uh, as like the heat brick, the fire brick, had, it was dirty, so it had solder on the back that I didn't see, so it spilled all over here, and I tried to clean it up, but I didn't want to remove too much metal because I didn't want it to be weakened. So there's stuff that I see, like this is super messy on this side. So like, yeah. So that's one of the reasons why I don't necessarily sell my class work, because I can see all the things that are wrong with it. So after hours, I made this piece. Now, this is kind of a revisitation of something that I've made previously. Of course, I have no documentation of when I did this series originally. which I don't know why. I looked for all the pictures, and the only thing that I can think of is that at one point my computer crashed many years ago, and I was traveling, and so I was using somebody else's computer, and I think that my images ended up there. And that's kind of before the cloud was like a thing. So there's not like a backup of it anywhere. So I made a whole series where I took tintypes and uh, so, anyways, I took tintypes and put them behind different cabochons. So, one of the things I did is I used to take old chandelier crystals and collage images on the backs of those, and some of them I would put almost in the style of like a Victorian memento mori or something. I would set those images behind really beautiful faceted crystals. And I love how it distorts the image. And I don't know if you can see that very well. The lighting is kind of weird. But I have a tintype. There's a portrait because I collect tintypes. And so I have a tintype and it's set behind this rutilated quartz. So I need to polish this up a little bit better. But this is a little bit of a tricky technique when you have such thick metal. So I used 18 gauge sterling silver for my bezel. And so that was a little bit tricky to do, but I got it to work. I like it. And I cut up and prepared a bunch of these. I had some other rutilated quartz, but I also found some vintage rhinestones, or I guess antique at this point. And the silver backing on them was coming up a little bit. So I kind of strategically removed some of the backing so that the image kind of comes through a little bit more. So it kind of has um, I don't know. It kind of has a little bit of uh, a macabre kind of vibe, but I like it. I'm a little bit creepy if you haven't noticed. Um, Susan says, Andrew, my mom was like you. She needed to warm up to people. I am like my dad. I can go into the doctor's office or an elevator and know everyone before I leave. Yeah, I think when I used to be really shy, like super, super duper shy. Um, and so it took me a long time to even learn how to do like public speaking and working with other people. So, it's one of those things where naturally I kind of gravitate to myself and kind of hang out on my own. Um, and so it kind of took a while to learn how to be around other people, if that makes sense. So yeah, so there's one of them. I have the lighting in here. Let me see if I can. Is that better? Can you see it better? But there's a tintype behind there. And I kind of think it's cool um that the rutilated quartz um kind of distorts the image. It's got those little hairs of gold in it, and I think that's pretty cool. Um, so yeah, so there's that. Um, then after that, I was in Tanya Crane's class a month ago or so, and I made a bunch of these enameled pieces. And these ones I don't have holes in, so I knew I had to set them somehow. And so I made these little tab settings and cut out the back because it's a domed out piece, and I thought that was pretty cool. Um, Of course, you can see where I messed up the counter enamel on that one, but whatever. Um, and so I think that's a pretty fun way of setting it. It's kind of a pain in the behind, because you do a lot of like miniature filing. One of the things about like bezel setting, I do a lot of bezel setting, and bezel setting is, if you, depending on the shapes that you do, can be really easy, or I shouldn't say can be really easy. It's easier and less fickle. But then when you have these little tiny things and you have to like sand them and polish them and file them down and do different things, um, it can be a little bit fiddly. But I think that looks cool. And I like how the copper, I did for this enameled piece, I did a clear layer on top of bare copper and then did the sgraffito technique on top of that. So you kind of see that copper in the behind. It kind of peeks through. That's what that kind of reddish color is, that coppery red color. And so I think that that goes well with the copper setting. And I think that turned out pretty good. So I'm pretty pleased with that. Um, Donna says, my sister can tell you all that I make new friends when I check out at Walmart. Donna says, that's beautiful, Andrew. Thank you. Julie says, love it. Thank you. June says, outstanding work, Andrew. Thank you. Teresa says, love this one. Thanks. So the next thing that we did, and I kind of fudged this one, is we did a basket setting for prongs. I don't know if you can see that very well, but I had this really cool quartz crystal that was faceted, and it had a deeper, it has a back that's not flat. And originally I was planning on maybe setting it like this, um, because I think it's kind of neat how that, how it kind of has a point of light. I don't know if that makes sense, but you can see it. There's like a little bit of a light that, because of all those facets, it kind of creates that point of light in there. So that's why I like these. Um, but I really don't use them very much because they don't have a flat back. So it was cool to learn better how to create these settings. Um, his way of doing it is really uh, particular, and that's good. It actually, like all those little particular things are actually useful and helpful so that it's more sturdy. Um, but it's, it's one of those things where I'm very rough and ready with my stuff. Like I kind of just have a very, I'm not a very, I wouldn't say I'm not detail oriented. I just kind of, I don't know. I just don't have that kind of mental capacity to go and like get the microscope out and like file things with like a hair. I don't, some people are really good about that. But I have a much more gestural approach to the way I make work. So so that was hard, but I can see how this, doing this one, the next one I do will be way better. um but anyways, so I kind of had this idea that I would make a little set where I had them all kind of dangling from a chain, um, kind of the way that I make my other necklaces. So I like this quartz crystal with this related quartz. It kind of has that old timey kind of antique vibe to it. So I was thinking maybe those would go together, but we'll see. And then one of the last pieces that I finished was I combined again the inside tab setting with the outside tab setting, but I put it so it's double sided. So I had this beautiful blue lace agate, which if you can see the copper through it, because it's fairly transparent, it kind of gives it a little bit of a warm kind of glow to it, which I think is pretty cool. So I basically did this kind of style setting on this side. And then on this side, I did this kind of setting. But I like the look of the tabs, like the exaggerated tabs. So I kept them pretty big. And then I did a little bit of a, I don't know if you can see it. My phone sometimes it's hard to do close-ups, but all along here, I took and filed a pattern in. So it almost looks like rays of light coming from there. And then I made this silver jump ring to kind of frame this piece. The tricky thing about that is I kind of, underneath here, some of the filing I did for the circle back, because I kind of designed it where you could see through it, was a little bit rough. So it's kind of like putting up a trim or something to make a room look straighter. When we first built a project wall, it looks so wonkadoodle because the walls in the building were so like distorted, and it was an old building in our first shop, and the walls were super crooked, and we had reused some drywall from another project, and that was pretty crooked too. So when you hung it up, it looks super like you're like, what in the fun house kind of business is this? And so what we did is my friend Laurel, she had an idea of putting a decorative trim around it, and the trim kind of acted as a frame, and visually it straightened everything out. So that was super helpful to have that. So it didn't look super weird. But anyway, so I kind of used that silver ring to do the same thing and hide up where some of my filing went awry. I mean, it covers up some of the pattern that I filed in, but that's okay. And I should say that all of these pieces, I haven't done a final polish on them, because I was working on kind of creating the tab settings and stuff. And so I didn't really have a chance to do the final polish. But I might, go back and do them if it strikes me. So I kind of like this. The only thing about this is that when I must have dropped this stone at some point because it used to be way more glowy, like all the way around. It looked like that, where it had that flash. And then there's one dead spot now. So I don't know if I dropped it at some point or cracked it or did something, but there's a dead spot now, which is not my favorite, but it is what it is. All right, so I also prepped a bunch of stuff that I didn't finish. Um, but yeah, maybe if I have a chance, I will try to finish it up. I'm getting stuff ready for New York Jewelry Week, and all the deadlines for that. They all seem to be this week. And I haven't been making stuff for the past couple weeks because I haven't been going to the cottage because we've been quarantining. So I haven't had a chance to make a ton of stuff for the deadlines, and they're all like tomorrow. So we'll see how much I get done with this. And yeah, I'm pretty excited about the ideas I have for the work that I'm going to make for New York Jewelry Week. And hopefully they accept my pieces. There's a couple other shows that are happening that I'm also applying for. And of course, all of the deadlines for those are also the same time. So it's going to be a busy time in the studio. And so I'm excited about that. I have a meeting that I have to get to. So I'm going to flip this around and I'm going to share the news that we have, that I've been saving to the very end of the video so that everybody watches until the end. So I do have some news. So I'm going to share that I'm going to flip the camera up and share that real fast. So don't go anywhere. I know some people, when I flip the camera up, they just instantly log off because they're like, oh, he's just going to talk some more. So yeah. All right. Hi, everybody. So I see a couple more folks have tuned in. Hey, Marianne. Hey, Diane. Thanks so much for all the kind words. I had a lot of fun in the class. I learned a lot. I think one of the things that was super nice was that I had dedicated time to practice this type of setting. I don't do a ton of prong settings and I don't do a ton of tab settings. Um, and so I just don't do them. So I don't necessarily have the practice that you get from like doing them over and over. Like I've made like a handful of them since I've been making pieces. So the time, the dedicated time was really wonderful. And then to have somebody who has a lot of experience doing it and can show the different tips and tricks was really helpful. So I can foresee myself using these settings a lot more. And I also got or I requested a gemstone setting book that I had previously not picked up because it was a little bit more technical. And so I was kind of worried that I wouldn't be able to kind of get it. Um, so, yeah, anyways. So, if you are waiting for the news, my sister Cynthia and Azalea are coming up tomorrow. So, they're driving all day tomorrow and they're going to be here tomorrow night. And so, we're going to hang out for a while. Um, we're going to work on kits for our kit day in the Great Bead Extravaganza, which is on September 19th. Previously, we didn't really have a kit launch day, and so people just launched whenever. And this time, we're trying to be a little bit more organized and have everything debut at the same time and earlier so that if people want to make along, they can make along with us. So hopefully you all will enjoy that. I don't know if we publicly announced that yet, but it's September 19th is our kit launch day. Um, Now, not everybody does kits in the Great Bee Extravaganza, so I just wanted to let people know that the people who do and want to reveal on the kit launch day are going to. So keep your eyes peeled for that. I have a meeting right after this, and we're going to do more details about that. So I'll have more to report back. So I'm super excited to be seeing my sister and Azalea. They're going to be here, and we're going to make lots of stuff and have lots of fun. My birthday is coming up. So hopefully we'll do something fun for my birthday if they're still around. Um, but we'll see. All right. Hopefully you enjoyed that little nugget of news and it was worth hanging out with me until the end. I've got to get to that meeting, so I'm going to sign off. Thanks so much for everybody and being patient with us. If we have, if it's taken us a while to get back to you, we're catching up on a lot of stuff. A lot of our plans got super derailed, and a lot of the timetables got way pushed back because we got sick, and then I took the class, and so I've been kind of out of the picture for 3 weeks, which is pretty wild. But we're back now and should be able to kind of get back to normal. Um, Now, a lot of this stuff, I should preface this by saying that Um, uh, the shipping was done at the cottage, and was everybody was quarantined, so that was still going out on a regular Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedule. So unless there was something that you needed from us, then things were still going out. The mystery boxes, I'm still working on them. I kind of, once I got sick, I didn't go back to the cottage. Um, so I'm going to be finishing those up this week. I had started them and I got a lot of stuff done before we left for Lancaster. But yeah. All right. So it's time for me to go. William's here.
Hello, everybody.
And I have to get a drink and catch my breath after talking. So bye.